This is Aesthetically Trained, the podcast. Pushing you to year-on-year progression. With your host, Ross McKinley.
Yo, Ross McKinley, Aesthetically Trained, the podcast, episode 3, Journey or Destination. So, hopefully, you've listened to the first 2 episodes. You've learned a little bit about my background. Most importantly, you've learned about the benefits, the buzz, the challenges can give you in the gym and in life in general. But now you're probably wondering, what's next? Where do I go from here? They're very much a theory, a philosophy that I have on the challenges, but how do you put it into practice? How do you decide on muscle gain, fat loss? How do you turn yourself from where you're at right now to someone who's been working with me for years? How do you get to my position? How do you love the gym? How do you make it part of your life, your lifestyle for years to come with results year on year? Year on year progression, as is in the title of the podcast. How do we do that? I believe we need to go back and we need to look at motivation, what goals, happiness, and all of that before we even get into protein, training, how much should you sleep. Episodes on that will come. But first and foremost, we need to look at why you're here and what you want to do moving forward. And we need to choose goals moving forward that will give you the most chance, the best chance of long-term success. So in this episode, I'll be covering whether I think you should go for fat loss or muscle gain, how that links into the psychology of a transformation, and where to start. So, types of motivation and why they matter. You might have seen people doing the 28-day challenge. You might have seen lads doing the 12-week transformation. You yourself have no doubt, everyone has. You've probably done a diet before. You've probably tried getting in shape once. You might have tried something off your personal trainer at the gym. You might have found something online. Everyone's given it a go. What makes the difference between someone who does that and continually gets better and someone who gives up, someone who stops? It starts with the 2 types of motivation and learning how to build them. So the 2 types of motivation, first of all, we'll have intrinsic motivation. The clue there, as much as I stuttered over it, is that it's internal. It means doing something for the love of it, doing something because you're enjoying the process. It's learning the guitar. It's something that you're doing without pressure for the sheer joy of what it is. It's doing it for doing its sake, essentially. The other type of motivation is extrinsic motivation. That is something where there's external pressure. It could be a reward in terms of monetary value. It could be the holiday and taking your top off at the beach. It could be social pressure from other people. It could be avoiding punishment or fear of punishment. It's something external that motivates you towards the goal. You might have heard people talk about enjoying the process, that it needs to be sustainable. You need to imagine yourself doing this forever. I don't agree with that. Sustainability, flexibility, all these things, they come with time. Initially, to get any goal started, and I believe to give you the best chance of success, you need both forms of motivation. You need the extrinsic pressure of a challenge, of a public commitment, of a deadline. But you also need the intrinsic motivation of why are you doing it. The problem is that in the beginning, some of you this might not be the case, very few people have the love of the gym in the beginning. I mentioned this in the previous episodes. Even me, myself, I started going to the gym because my extrinsic motivation, my goal was to be a footballer. So for you right now, people sign up for the 28-day challenge. Men work with me from all over the world because initially they want to lose weight. They want to get shredded. That everyone's got one of 2 goals. We're either going to get shredded or we're going to get massive. But that's normally not just for doing that sake. It might be to impress other people. It might be to be fitter or bigger or whatever with your girlfriend, with your kids, for fitness, whatever it is. But along the way, it's very, very important that we'll learn how to measure progress, that we'll learn how to enjoy the process so that we can set ourselves up, and I keep saying it, for the best possible chance of long-term success. So how do we do that? Well, we need the pressure and the deadline for sure. We need that goal. We need the reason to start. It's okay saying you should enjoy the gym, you should love the gym. Some of you, I imagine listening to this podcast, you're in that position. But how do we make that even better? How do we give ourselves the most happiness from the process? Well, think now, what is happiness? What is it? Happiness is progress. Happiness is knowing that we're improving. Happiness is knowing that when you're going to the gym, you're getting better, that you've got a goal, that you've got a plan, that you're moving forward. So the first thing I would say is that to build up intrinsic motivation, to enjoy doing it and for its purpose, for enjoyment's sake, you need to build up that store of intrinsic motivation. It is through extrinsic motivation, the challenge, if you like, that you get to that point. And through progress, that creates the happiness. The happiness that's required for intrinsic motivation, which is going to keep you involved for the long run, that's the difference between maybe you listening and some lads that work for me years, is learning to love it. It's learning to embrace every training session, to write your numbers down. I've got some numbers here, some facts for you and some areas that you can focus on in a second, but I want to talk about why that's important and why I believe that some men go wrong, both when they work with me and in general with their transformations. When we set goals, when we think about fat loss or muscle gain, getting massive, getting shredded for a holiday, we're normally thinking extrinsically. We're thinking about the end result. We're thinking about the photo. We're thinking about the night out, the wedding. We're not necessarily present in the process. We're only focused on that one moment, that one day, and therein lies the problem. There's something called, and I've recently learned this, so I'll probably butcher the pronunciation of it, the hedonic adaptation, which basically means when you achieve a goal, not long after, your body returns to the state, or your mind returns to the same level of happiness as it was before achieving the goal. That's why when they talk about people winning the lottery, all these things, a week after, 2 weeks after, once you've achieved the goal, happiness goes back down to normal. Why is this? How can we avoid it? How can we get off that hedonic treadmill, as they say, and how can we make sure that we're continually improving and enjoying the process? For any of you that've got your own business, anyone who's set targets for anything, sometimes we're setting targets for target's sake. I want this episode of the podcast to stop you from doing that. I want you to learn about what you should be doing. A great example is at work. Anyone, again, business or whatever it is, you're signing up so many people. You're trying to earn a certain amount of money a month. Whatever it is, we've all set targets before. But what happens when you achieve it? Most times. What's the next goal? You say things to yourself like, I'll be happy when X happens. I'll be happy when Y happens. When you achieve it, you then say, what if I could do a little bit more? We're continually moving the goalpost and putting ourselves in a position of chasing something that's in the future, as opposed to being present and enjoying the process. That then reduces our happiness. It makes us inevitably go back to where we were. This is why I believe so many men, or a lot of men, they'll do a transformation, they'll get lean once, but then at the end it's almost like a hollow victory. They don't really appreciate or enjoy where they're at, because all they were thinking about throughout the process, instead of making it a habit, instead of learning to love it, instead of engrossing yourself in whatever it is you're doing, all they were thinking about, all that was motivating them, see how this is tying in, was extrinsic motivation. All that they were thinking about was the reward, the end result, the goal. Extrinsic motivation is goal setting, really. Intrinsic is the process, if you like, in learning to enjoy it, in my terms. So, why does this matter? Well, if we can learn to enjoy the process, we can avoid hedonic adaptation. It means that when we achieve goals, We'll enjoy them more. We won't take them for granted. You won't find yourself in this loop. You won't be a yo-yo dieter. You won't be someone who's feeling hollow in victory or who's wondering, like, what's the point in dieting, in training? So how can we do that? I mentioned it before. What is happiness? Progress is happiness. So what we're actually trying to create, if you want to be smiling this much and running a podcast or whatever it is that your goals are, but if you want to just get the most out of the gym, which is what this is for, we want to maximize happiness in the process. We want to give ourselves the most variables, the most opportunities for that to happen. So how do we do it? I've got 6 areas for you. So we need data. We can't have progress without numbers, without fact, without stats, without something to support that feeling, that process. So there's 6 things that I've written down that I do with all of my clients and I encourage you to do now. This is all going to link into fat loss and muscle gain at the end, don't worry. So whether you're working on fat loss or muscle gain, something I believe everyone should be doing is recording their weight. You need weekly, fortnightly check-ins or whatever it is, but you need weight and we're going to track weight. You need photos. You also need to record your workouts. That also means you probably need a workout plan. We need measurements. We also need, and this is an important one, to be learning new skills. That could be exercises, it could be challenges, it could be the change in goals throughout the year in learning how to go from fat loss to muscle gain, but the process needs to be engaging. And then the last one, and this is massive, I think this is the one that takes you to the next level. You need a community and you need accountability. So I'm going to run through it again. We've got weight, photos. You need to record your workouts or track or have a plan. We need measurements. We need to be learning new skills. And then the last one is we need community and accountability. So how does this work? Why does this matter? Well, if we know that we need to enjoy the process and happiness is progress and everything else, we need variables and ways of improving happiness. We talked about in the second episode about how we get the little buzz in the gym. But whatever you're doing, whether it's fat loss or muscle gain, we need these little wins along the way. If you're going into the gym right now and you haven't got a training program, you're missing out on 5 exercises, 20 sets, 16 sets, however many it is, you're missing out effectively on 16 mini opportunities to beat yourself every session. You're missing out on 16 little confidence boosts that go into your bank of enjoying the process that build intrinsic motivation. You might start to get lean for the holiday because you need to lose weight. But doing these things along the way will give you the confidence, the self-belief, and the growth that you maintain it for a long time. You'll go from being the person who yo-yo diets, who does something once, to all of a sudden you're reviewing, evaluating, getting feedback, and going again. You're continually getting better. You're being pushed to year-on-year progression. And that, for me, is what it's all about. So we're taking our weight. We're getting photos. We're recording the workouts. We've got the measurements. You've got the community and the accountability, the learning of the skills. The community and the accountability, to be clear, it doesn't have to be working with a coach. It could be having a training partner. It's that extra pressure. It's using these things to create an environment and a scenario where you've given yourself the best possible chance of success. If we wait until we're motivated, unfortunately, or wait until we're feeling our best, the chances of we're doing something are slim. Even I don't feel my best every single day. I don't want to get that one more rep. I don't necessarily always want to push to failure. But if I've got a training partner there, if I'm filming it, as vain as it sounds, if I'm creating an environment that makes us push harder, I'm going to get better results. The results build the extrinsic motivation, the love of it, the self-belief, the confidence, the writing things down, the following these steps build the intrinsic motivation. So that at the end of a challenge, at the end of your next phase, whether it's fat loss or muscle gain, all of a sudden, you haven't just got the result. Yes, results are great. Destination is fucking massively important. I can get anyone in the world lean. Anyone. And I'm getting good. I'm getting better. I'm sure in time I'll be great at turning everyone into that own version or having that own love for the gym like I do. But that is much harder than getting lean. It's much harder than fat loss, loving the process. But these things will make you do it. So how does this link to fat loss or muscle gain? Why is it even relevant to talk about it now? Well, for any of you who've tried naturally, as I am, as all the lads that I coach are, to build muscle is hard fucking work. It's no joke. It's tough. To do that naturally and to put yourself in a position where you've got the confidence and the belief to do it for a long period, which is what it takes for muscle gain, I think most people will struggle to do that if they have not had a successful fat loss phase first. Because the quickest way, the instant gratification that we're all looking for in this new modern technology world, or whatever you want to call it, of the likes, the instant feedback that you're doing well, as stupid as it sounds, we'll have to kind of put up with these things. We'll have to use them to our side. We'll have to use them and set ourselves up in a way where they can help our progress. So what's the way to do that? Well, it's writing down the workouts. So we're getting that instant thing of, I've beat my numbers from last week. That builds your confidence. It's having the community and the support so you can report back to other people and you're getting the feedback that you're doing well. That'll build your trust in the process. Also, by starting with fat loss, as I believe that 99% of men listening to this should start with a fat loss phase next, is because when you're doing a fat loss phase, everyone will be repeatedly telling you that you're doing great if you do it right. And believe me, I've helped every fucker on my 28-day challenge, and there isn't one person who, if they stick to the plan, I haven't helped. Everyone will make progress, and progress will give you the belief for the longer term that you can do it. Some people will lose 6 kilos, 7 kilos, 8 kilos, and this isn't just with me, it's with any coach. Some people will lose a kilo, they'll lose a couple of pounds. What you need is some form of progress to build on. Fat loss gives you, I believe, the quickest way to do that. You've almost got a shortcut into positive, being reaffirmed by people, being reassured that you're heading in the right direction. Oh, you look like you've lost weight in your face. Oh, you're looking leaner. You're looking fitter. You'll be better looking. All positive things. To go the other way for muscle gain, to start with that, takes massive balls. I believe muscle gain is a much, much harder process. And I say that to all the lads I coach, you need to be much more committed. And you have to think, you have to look at motivation as something that you top up. It's not there all the time. It's something that you build. You build it with your goals. You build it with training. Just like you build self-belief, like you build confidence, like you build your knowledge that leads to growth. So to build up those two stores of motivation that we need, to build the intrinsic motivation, which is the love of the process, which is the faith and the belief in yourself and the knowledge, the habits that you need in muscle gain can be built through starting with a fat loss phase. Those 6 things I mentioned, weight, photos, recording your workouts, using a logbook is fucking massive. That's the biggest one. Do that. Measurements, taking your measurements, learning new skills, making sure that your workouts are engaging, you've got new exercises, you've got the challenges I talked about in previous episodes. The community and the accountability, having a training program, having a group online of like-minded individuals. All these things are required in both phases, to be clear. But if, as I am now, I was speaking to 100 people, hopefully, 1,000 people over the years, 10,000 men listen to this podcast in 10 years' time, let's say it goes that big, fingers crossed, share it. If I was giving anyone advice and I didn't know them, or even if I did know them, most people that I talk to, I always try to send them down this route first. I've built my business around it, not because you only need to do it with me. I believe it for you yourself, on your own, regardless. A fat loss phase first will set you up for long-term success. Even if you consider experience and your enjoyment and that whole chance of the long-term success, fat loss is better because it builds self-confidence, you'll build the knowledge, and then you'll be able to go into a muscle gain phase. And when it gets hard, which it will, when progress is much, much slower, when you don't have people patting you on the back anymore and saying, God, you're looking leaner, God, people will be saying, you've gained weight, you're looking big, what you doing, are you trying to get bigger? You're effectively going away from your ideal to eventually be better in muscle gain. And that is really, really hard. But you need to do these things to enjoy the process, to keep it engaging, to give you that year-on-year progression, to avoid the hedonic adaptation. I love that, I've just learned it. To avoid that feeling, to avoid the hollow victory, to avoid being mediocre. We all know the one person who every year goes on holiday and they put the same photo up and they're a little bit lean and they've got abs and they've done the cut once a year. Mediocrity. It's mediocre. It's average. It's what everyone else does. Everyone can diet down once a year for a holiday. But the people who love the process, the people who have skin in the game, the lads who are raving fans of aesthetically trained, of bodybuilding, of natural bodybuilding, of aesthetics, of training and the love of the gym, which is what I believe most of you will want by listening to this podcast, the lads, the men who do that are the ones who are continually trying to better themselves. The ones who understand that you need both fat loss and muscle gain, but who are also prepared to train themselves up in other areas. They're prepared to put the time in, enjoying and learning about the process. Because we need both forms of motivation. We need to be building that happiness, building progress, tracking it. So how do we do it? To sum up the episode, to put it all together, I believe, if you're listening to this now, you should probably start with a fat loss phase. Bit of a bold statement, but I'm not someone who's going to fuck about. I am not going to sit here and say, it depends, it's this, it's that. If you've never worked with a coach before, if you're planning on getting in shape, even if you are 60 kilos, 65 kilos wet through, and you want to get massive, the benefits to starting with a fat loss phase in terms of the process, the routine, the structure, the discipline, the confidence, the growth, the knowledge, everything else I mentioned are there for everyone to see. The difference along the way with the men that work with me, the men that I see on social media, and people in general when it comes to transformation, those who yo-yo diet, those who give up, those who get competent, get comfortable, and then go back to where they used to be. What they're doing wrong, they're missing these 6 things. They're missing the progress and the tracking of the progress that leads to loving the goal. Without that, all you have is the end result. And the end result is only ever one day. It's only ever one photo. Then you'll start questioning, is it worth it? We'll all need to learn to love the process. That doesn't mean that it should be sustainable. Doesn't mean that you need to make it manageable. There will be times when you have to sacrifice, and there should be times when you're willing to sacrifice and work extra fucking hard to make it happen. But to do that, we need to learn. We need to be present in the process. We need to think about the journey and the destination. So to ask you to finish with 2 questions that I think will help you. Whatever you're working towards now, think, would I be better off having a go at a fat loss phase for the reasons that Ross has just explained? But also what I want you to think is, am I building both forms of motivation? Am I practicing my craft? Am I learning? Am I building up that intrinsic motivation, extrinsic motivation? Am I topping up both forms? Am I using extrinsic motivation to push us over the line, to give us a deadline, to get out that extra bit of results, to really get to that next level? Because we need deadlines, we need pressure, we need public accountability, we need a training partner, we need people to call out to do that. You won't get there through one form of motivation alone. Equally, if you're using all those things, if you're signing up to challenges with me, if you're working for the coaches online, or if you're just putting a lot of pressure on yourself, are you building intrinsic motivation? And to do that, I want you to think now, whether you're in your car, wherever you're listening to this. If we look at progress as happiness, I want you to give yourself a score out of 6. Are you doing these 6 things in your transformation for your next goal? Are you tracking your weight? Are you taking photos? Are you recording your workouts? And with that one also, are you following a training program? Are you taking measurements? Are you learning new skills along the way? That could be new exercises, could be by adding in challenges, could be a change in goal ahead, or having a structure that creates growth that makes you want to learn and keeps it challenging for you. And then lastly, do you have community? Do you have accountability? That could be a training partner, could be an online coaching group, but it's something to keep you accountable and to push you to that next level. So give yourself a score out of 6, and then look at also, are you building and creating both types of motivation? I believe you should start with fat loss. Let us know what you think. Any questions you have, any feedback. So far, it's been very interactive. I've loved hearing from all of you. Hopefully you understood this one. Moving forward, of course, we're going to go into more detail. I want to do a podcast, an episode specifically on just fat loss, on just muscle gain. But first and foremost, this is where it all starts. I'm trying to build and create the bigger picture for you so that hopefully in years to come, people can come back and listen to these episodes and it sets themselves up, as much as I keep saying it, for long-term success. It's about pushing you a year-on-year progression, and I believe that this does that. Episode 3, Journey and Destination, done. Thank you.
You've been listening to Aesthetically Trained, the podcast. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and spread the word.